Does this failure heighten the urgency behind reopening the government?
Well, this is just more of the cost of the Schumer shutdown. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are shutting down government, plain and simple. They have voted for this exact same bill 4 times in a row over the last 18 months. This is a bipartisan, in fact, it's the only bipartisan offering to open up government. It's a compromise that's already been voted on 4 times already. And so when they were shutting it down, we said, well, look, we got people who are working, air traffic controllers, law enforcement officers, military. Let's at least pay them while they're working. And Democrats couldn't even do that. 3 Democrats did vote with Republicans. So, again, it's a bipartisan bill, but we couldn't get enough Democrats to break the filibuster.
Understood. We had Senator Cortez Masto on with us just yesterday, as a matter of fact. But I'm wondering your reaction to Democrats' assertions that the problem with this bill today, the Johnson legislation, is that it forces us to choose between who gets paid and who doesn't, and that everybody should be taken care of in one fell swoop. What do you tell them?
Well, that's entirely hypocritical of the Democrats, as we have seen through this entire process. They've been nothing but hypocrites, failing to vote for a bill they've already voted for 4 times, and this statement too. I mean, look, these are the people who are showing up to work. At the very least, we can pay them, get them their paychecks while they're working. This is just absolutely ridiculous that the Democrats said that we can't even do that. I mean, these are air traffic controllers. These are law enforcement officers. These are military. These are the people keeping us safe. So we ought to be able to at least pay them. Now, if the Democrats are so interested in this, they should pick up the phone, call Ron Johnson, and see if they can work out another deal. Republicans will be happy to talk to him about that. I'm sure Ron Johnson will be. But what we actually have seen is the Democrats are the one who are creating the shutdown for their own political games. Chuck Schumer
there are
said
Democratic versions of that bill. Sorry to interrupt, Senator. There are 2 different Democrat bills, right, that would pay all workers during the shutdown. I realize the Peters bill is a bit more narrow. Would you support either of those?
So the Peters bill wanted to open up the government just to pay them and then shut it back down again. So that doesn't do any good on an ongoing basis. So that's just ridiculous. Again, this is where I would encourage Senator Van Hollen, if he wants to work with Ron Johnson, to see if they can work out some sort of deal on this. Because really, if you go look at what they called it, this was their alternative to the Johnson bill. They only did this because Ron Johnson filed this bill. This was a last-minute ditch, effort by Democrats to somehow appear like they were somehow on side of the working folks in our federal government, and they're not. They're just not. So this was a desperate attempt. It's hypocritical, and frankly, people are going to see right through this.
A group that really may be suffering in this shutdown is cattle ranchers in your state, and many have been vocal with their opposition to President Trump importing beef from Argentina. Have you brought those concerns to the president?
I have engaged a number of administration officials, including Secretary Bissett at length, James Greer, our trade representative, Brooke Rollins, and as a matter of fact, a number of us, when we were at the White House a couple of days ago, spoke to the president directly about this. And while I certainly appreciate the president's desire to bring down grocery prices and appreciate the offer to open up more grassland and get more beef to consumers, we really should look for more market-based solutions. For example, one of the reasons beef prices are up is because our border with Mexico is shut down because of the New World screwworm. It's a dangerous fly that endangers livestock. We wiped it out in our country in the 1960s. We don't want it back. So we shut down the Mexican border where a lot of beef flows back and forth. So we ought to look for ways we can mitigate that and get that border open again rather than bring in more Argentinian beef. So I'd urge the administration to reconsider a decision.
I mean, is this bad policy for cattle ranchers in your state that supported the president? Is this just bad policy for them?
Well, I appreciate what the president's trying to do. I think there's other alternatives that are more market-based solutions that can really help the president accomplish what he's doing. And we're going to continue to work with the administration to really focus on those sort of solutions rather than importing more Argentinian beef.
The president was writing on Truth Social, Senator, as you probably saw. The cattle ranchers, he says, do not understand the only reason they're doing so well is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States. He goes on to saying, if it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done the past 20 years. Terrible. Has it been that bad the last 20 years?
There is nothing more American than cowboys and American beef. And there is no doubt that our ranchers have had some difficult times in agriculture. Agriculture in general is having difficult times. And over the last couple of years, we have seen that cattle ranchers are doing much better. And we actually need this much needed inflow of equity into our cattle ranchers because they need that to be able to stay in business, frankly. And actually, if you kind of look at it, we were talking to some folks in the industry, they're representing that, people are paying essentially the same amount, and if you look at how many minutes of work it takes to be able to afford a pound of beef today as they were in past decades. And in fact, the demand for beef has not fallen off. It's continuing to go up. So consumers are still demanding beef, and our ranchers are the ones providing it. They work hard to be able to provide it, and I will continue to fight to support our ranchers.
Yeah, the Nebraska Cattlemen's Board of Directors, they're outright urging the president to put American beef first. Did you bring that up with him when you spoke to him at the White House?
When we were at the White House, what I was really trying to talk to the president about was more things like the New World screwworm and looking for market-based solutions there. And that's a lot of what my conversations with the different administrations have been, of trying to find, hey, let's find some different alternatives that are market-based solutions that will really help the president address his needs, because that's really the way we ought to be working in this government.
We were listening to the president at an event he held a short time ago, along with several members of his cabinet, Senator, including Defense Secretary Pete Ricketts. And they were asked by reporters, this turned into a bit of a Q&A session, about what's going on in the Caribbean, specifically off the coast of Venezuela. We've, of course, seen now, I believe, 8 vessels, including a submarine blown up by the United States military, said to be carrying drugs, trafficking drugs to the U.S. Here's what Pete Ricketts said a short time ago.
Our message to these foreign terrorist organizations is we will treat you like we have treated al-Qaeda. We will find you, we will map your networks, we will hunt you down, and we will kill you. And you've seen that evidence in the maritime domain.
Wall Street Journal, Senator, says that the U.S. flew a couple of B-1s, a couple of these bombers over the waters off of Venezuela. And I don't know what your thought is as to what's coming next or what this buildup is leading to, but do you want to have a say as a member of the United States Senate when it comes to war powers here?
The people of the United States hired Donald Trump to keep them safe, and that is what he is doing. Look, the Maduro government in Venezuela is supporting these cartels. They're part of their military. I think that coming up with a different strategy to be able to address this is what we need to do. Think about it. Drug overdose is the leading cause of death of Americans aged 18 to 45. Over 100,000 people. If we had a war where 100,000 people were being killed, or a terrorist attack, we'd be on the march. And that's what the president is trying to do, is say to these narco-terrorists that if you're going to act like al-Qaeda, you're going to kill our people, we're going to treat you like al-Qaeda. I think that coming up with innovative ways to do it is exactly the right approach. And let's think about this. There is no commercial use for a submarine. This is clearly about trying to traffic dangerous drugs into our country.
Oh, understood. But if this does escalate and we start seeing maybe ground strikes, as the White House has mused about openly here, should there be an authorization for the use of military force?
Well, certainly that's one of the things that we can have more discussions about, but I think it's a position of a lot of us that the president has the authority he needs already to go after terrorist groups, and essentially that is what we are doing here. We're going after these groups that are, we're telling them outright, we're treating you like terrorists. They're agreeing to be treated like terrorist groups, so we need to go after them.
Before we let you go, Senator, I do want to talk to you about, with all of this going on, President Trump now will meet with President Xi next week. What do you believe is the best outcome, especially with 155% tariffs now on the table?
The relationship between the United States and Communist China is going to be a long and complicated one. Our economies are very intertwined. We have a desire to decouple. We want to make sure that we're moving our critical supply chains out of Communist China for our own national security purposes. But that's not going to happen overnight. And so I think this is going to be a long negotiation that we go through, ongoing, to be able to address different type of things that we import and things that they import. So this is good that we're having that conversation. That's the only way you make progress, is by having those conversations when it comes to trade. But I expect that we'll see some progress. But this is going to be an ongoing conversation for a while here as we look at different aspects of a very complicated relationship.